Welcome, everyone. In this presentation, we are going to summarize some of the anxiety dealing techniques addressed in previous presentations, as well as we are going to understand how can teachers cooperate with health professionals on what refers to the management of students' anxiety. This table points out the main strategies we can use in our daily life to deal with anxiety, strategies we can apply to ourselves, but also that we can use with students and teach them how to use them. Together, these strategies can be called as coping strategies, meaning they are tools we use to deal with and to manage a problem. In this case, anxiety feelings. But it is important to notice that in moderate to severe cases, these strategies will not be enough most of the times, being mandatory to ask for professional help, and sometimes pharmacological therapy is needed. From the health professional's perspective, there are a lot of guidelines and action plans towards a teenager presenting with anxiety levels. Clearly, the analysis of those documents is not of benefit to this presentation. Teachers are of great importance in the identification of students with potential pathological anxiety levels, but it's not their job to go further than that. For that reason, the presentation of this document, the Mental Health Gap Action Program, an intervention guide for mental, neurological, and substance use disorders, does not have the intention to analyze those steps on the diagnosis and treatment of an anxiety disorder. In contrast, it has the intention to share what are the aspects clinicians need to pay attention at and where teachers can have also a role to play, considering teachers are every day in the field with the students at schools, thus being more aware of those aspects. Practical example. It is common at primary healthcare services that parents come to the medical appointments with their sons and daughters, most of them from younger ages, but also teenagers, because the teacher at school noticed some behavioral change, some learning difficulty. Some of them even bring a report from the teacher describing those aspects and asking for medical evaluation. In return, after some medical evaluations, the doctor can give the parents a form or a questionnaire so the teacher at school can fill it. Then the parents fill another similar form and the answers are compared in future appointments in order to understand whether that situation happens in more than one context or not. As I said, it's team's work. This scenario might happen regarding a suspected anxiety disorder, for instance. From the recommended assessment checklist, whenever a health professional is dealing with a teenager with anxiety, there's the inattention or overactivity topic. Well, sometimes the behavior of a student is not the same as at home. You may have already approached a parent telling their son or daughter did not behave adequately at school, and they answered you back, well, he or she never behaves that way at home. That's impossible. So, comparing the perspective of the teacher and the parents, caregivers, is of vital importance, and teachers can give us a lot of information on that. The same regarding home environment. During a medical appointment, the doctor can try to understand the teenager's social environment, but most of the times it is not possible to follow that teenager for a long period of time. Besides, teachers deal with that teenager every day at school. Teachers know the person, people who leaves him at school, who picks him up, what kind of interaction the student keeps with the caregiver. Teachers definitely may have a better perspective of a student's environment. And of course, the school environment is where teachers most can help us. Trying to understand the student's interactions with other teachers, colleagues, the other school staff, the academic results, evaluation, whether the student is getting into trouble after than usual, etc. It is also important to pay attention and to understand whether the student shows any sign of feeling irritable, easily annoyed, down, or sad, has lost interest in or enjoyment of activities, has many worries, or often seems worried if avoids or strongly dislikes certain situations. Whenever there is a considerable difficulty of the teenager with daily functioning in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other areas, when the anxiety levels are out of range of preventive anxiety techniques, we start dealing with moderate to severe anxiety, which justifies a medical evaluation, first of all, to exclude some other possible causes of anxiety. Besides, to manage those causes in case they exist, or to consider an emotional disorder in case physical disorders are excluded. In case the adolescent presents with symptoms like disturbed sleep or sleeping too much, significant change in appetite or weight, fatigue or loss of energy, among others, for at least 2 weeks and without any kind of impact on the functionality, then we can think about a problem with emotions, where anxiety disorders are included. Once again, let me remind, it is not expected from teachers to make any kind of diagnosis. This algorithm serves only the purpose of highlighting the important parameters on the evaluation of students with anxiety disorders, where teachers can also give health professionals some information. Diagnostics can only be made by health professionals. The student's environment is a cornerstone and most of the times a key for understanding the reasons behind their raised anxiety levels. Well, sometimes that environment is not healthy because of the carers' bad relation, because of low socioeconomic levels that obligates both parents to work a lot, not giving enough attention to their children when they need it the most. And these are some reasons for what environment can be the cause, or one of the causes, for increased anxiety levels. Besides, we should not forget that we may be facing a situation of a physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, paying attention to signs or evidences of those conditions. Also, school environment is of vital importance. In addition to the other aspects already mentioned regarding the school environment, there's a particular important one: bullying. The most severe manifestation of peer victimization is bullying, characterized by an asymmetric power relationship between bully and victim, which may be physical or psychological. According to literature, the top four anxiety disorders that victims of bullying can experience include post-traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, panic attacks, and social anxiety disorder. Studies have shown victims of different forms of peer victimization, verbal, physical, and relational, presented a higher level of social anxiety. In a longitudinal perspective, the relationship between social anxiety and peer victimization can be explained in a negative circle. Socially anxious children may be at risk for peer victimization, and perpetration of peer victimization may generate higher levels of social anxiety, and this is why all of us should be aware of it. Once again, the need of cooperation with schools and teachers. Once an anxiety disorder is diagnosed, there are three main areas that need to be addressed, namely guidance on child adolescent well-being, psychoeducation on the person and carers, and parenting advice, as well as liaise with teachers and other school staff. Regarding guidance to promote child adolescent well-being and functioning, some of the strategies have already been addressed in a previous presentation, such as get enough sleep, eat well, be physically active, participate in school and community activities, spend time with family and friends. About psychoeducation to person and carers and parenting advice, it is important to elucidate parents so they can better understand their child's situation, identifying strengths, aspects to overcome. Besides all the help teachers already provide, they can also help on the establishment of a plan on how to support the child with learning and participation in school activities, realizing to what extent the student's mental condition is affecting the learning, behavioral, or social functioning. The major purpose is to provide opportunities for the adolescent to use his skills and strengths, feeling comfortable in the interaction with the class. Thank you for your attention.